But I've been battling with this for a really, really, really long time. And the Lord has been speaking to me for a while about it. And I've just been silencing his voice to justify my desire to keep this idol in my life. God says not to have any other gods in his presence. God says not to commit adultery. God also said that the light will expose what's in the dark. That is exactly what he did when he exposed my secret sin. As much as I thought I was humble, as much as I thought that I was being a vessel and surrendered to his call on my life and surrendered to him and walking in obedience, I was not. I had him on a throne next to another idol. I was committing adultery against him with this idol. And I can't say that I was completely ignorant to it. I just didn't want to believe that it was as deep as it was. So before I dive really deeply into explaining what the secret sin is and how the Lord really revealed to me what was in my heart, I'm going to read this letter that I wrote after the revelation took place. I wrote this yesterday, February 4th, 2026. This might not be yesterday when this video comes out, but that's when I wrote it. To the enemy I loved most. This is my dear John letter to my most beloved sin, the one who was keeping me from loving the way I was called to. I feel bad for the grief I feel letting go of you. After all, you were who manipulated me. You convinced me that you were protection. You convinced me that you were the answer to my problems. You convinced me that you were him. I'll admit it. For as long as I can remember, you were with me. You held me at night when I felt alone. You soothed my cries for attention. You relieved my stress. You loved me when no one else would. You provided when no one else could. You were my longest friend. But you are also my greatest enemy. You didn't mind slowly deceiving me into loving you more than my savior. You convinced me that he was fine with our relationship of adultery. You reframed idolatry into normalcy. You didn't care that as he was healing me on the inside, I was turning into your image externally. With every revelation he gave me, you were there to comfort the pain of that healing. With every moment of clarity that humbled me, you pridefully rewarded me with your presence. But his presence is stronger. His love is greater. His love doesn't force nor manipulate, and the pain comes with change into holiness. I kept you alive by ignoring his voice because you screamed how much you needed me. And only now do I realize you tricked me into believing your voice was mine. To the enemy I love the most, comfort, I no longer choose you. So that is the letter that I wrote after the Lord showed me what was in my heart. The Lord showed me what I was idolizing and what I was placing in front of him. Even though in my mind, I kept the focus on Jesus. I kept him at the center of all my decisions and things like that. I went to him for the healing and things like that. I didn't keep him first because I had an idol next to him, and he's not equal with anything. He's above everything, So when it came to him healing me, when it came to me seeking him, any anxiety that came up, any frustration, any anger, any hesitancy, any confusion, any of those emotions, I dealt with those with my other idol. I came to him for healing, but I came to my other idol. I went to my other idol for comfort. And that idol was food. That idol was food. That idol was sugar. That idol was comfort. As convinced as I was of killing my flesh daily, doing all these things, my flesh was alive by the way I was soothing the pain that came with the healing journey with the Lord. Point blank, period. And it might seem like a small thing, because we're supposed to eat. We're supposed to fuel our body. We're supposed to be nourished and things like that. But I noticed, no, the Lord showed me that I was going above and beyond what was necessary to survive. I was using food. I was using the comfort of sweets or drinks or anything along them lines to soothe myself when there was any kind of discomfort when it came to healing on the inside. Because healing on the inside was something that it was something that I was actually open to doing. I was open to renewing my mind. I was open to changing the way I think. I was open to taking accountability, changing perspective, things of that nature. All the things that happen on the insides of our minds, I was open to those things, you know? I'm okay with that, but that doesn't mean it didn't come with discomfort, you know? And the thing that wasn't surrendered, the thing that was harder to lay down was letting go of the tangible discomfort that came with the healing, that came with God renewing me. So when he renews my mind and I'm open to that, I'm not open to sitting in the uncomfortability of that revelation without eating something to soothe my nerves. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'll do it, but as I'm anxious or as I'm nervous or as I'm hesitant, let me go grab something sweet. Let me go do this, let me go eat this food. Let me go overindulge to kind of eat my emotions that come with what God is showing me about myself. And, it's wild because although there was change in my mindset, there was change in my perspective, there was change in my understanding about the way I was operating from my mental state, there was no change in how I was showing up physically. Physically, I would still respond the same way. I still do. I still needed to find something to soothe the discomfort that came with the growth, and instead of giving that to God and going to God and say, hey, I'm struggling with this physically, it's like I would go in the kitchen or I would run to the store or my crutch was energy drinks. Like it was so bad how much I felt like I needed energy drinks. And then it wasn't because I needed energy. I was just addicted to the taste of it. Like I just really loved energy drinks. It was just my everyday thing. I had one every day, Even if I didn't want it, I would drink energy drinks. And now I realize it's actually really unhealthy and it's so much sugar and it's just, yeah, all the things, all the things. But I would run to these things whenever I felt uncomfortable because it provided some sort of a relief, I had a relief when I was able to drink the thing I wanted, to eat the food I wanted, to just kind of like separate myself from the revelation of the pain that the Lord just showed me. And not that it was harmful to me. Like there's growth that always comes with anything that the Lord is healing you in, that the Lord is healing you from, but it doesn't remove the discomfort of change. It doesn't remove the resistance. It doesn't remove the survival instincts of, whoa, that was uncomfortable. That was a threat. I need to find something familiar so that I can feel okay with this thing, And the Lord has really been working in my life with a lot of healing, with a lot of growth, with a lot of discernment, with a lot of understanding, with a lot of wisdom, all the things he's pouring into me. And it's been at such an accelerated rate that my body is not used to so many changes at one time. And although I can handle it mentally, I could not handle it physically. And me not being able to handle it physically, I would reach for whatever would cause comfort to my flesh in all of this physical change. And I was noticing it even just with my clothes. I gained a lot of weight. I gained a considerate amount of weight in the year that I've been following the Lord. And I started to notice it and I'm just like, I don't understand why I'm gaining so much weight. I didn't feel like I was eating a lot, but when the Lord really had me like hone in on when I was eating and why I was eating and what was triggering me to go grab a snack, it always came when a void of some sort was created with healing. Whenever he would come in and heal something for me, whenever he come in and show me something about my heart, show something about my life, show me something about me that needed to be changed that I could be like, okay, this isn't right. Let me change this. I would also associate that with eating. I would associate that with grabbing something to make me feel good. So simultaneously, as I was healing with the Lord in my mental and my spiritual, I would couple that with eating and providing comfort for my physical, for my flesh. So my flesh was dying in some aspects, but I was keeping it alive with the comfort of food. And I didn't realize how much of an idol that it was in my life until the Lord really had to show that to me. Like ever since I was little, it's always been food that was given to me or food that I would steal when I would feel uncomfortable or I would feel scared or I would feel something, that was always my go-to vice, my go-to comfort was food. It didn't matter what it was. Like when I was younger, I would always steal bread. I love bread. Bread is my enemy, it's the one thing that always gets me. Like I love bread, y'all. I love bread. But I was still bread when I was younger because I was lonely and I was scared the way that I was growing up. And I didn't realize this until now, but being in a home where you're being abused and talked down to and there's no love or anything, and the only thing you can turn to is like a piece of bread in the middle of the night, that's what I would do. I would just go get a snack because I felt comforted in that food, And there have been moments in my life where food wasn't a comfort, because I had my other vices. This happened after I killed everything else, I killed the fornication, I killed the weed, I killed the attention that I needed from men. I killed all of those things, and the one thing that was left was my comfort of food. So as I started killing my flesh in other areas, it was just grabbing hold of the one thing that I wasn't letting go of, and it got worse. Like, it just got worse, and I'm like, I didn't realize it until the Lord really showed it to me, because I'm like, Lord, I don't want anything hindering my relationship with you, not myself. Please search my heart. Search me. Show me who I am, because I don't know. And I'm not only in a battle with the enemy, I'm in a battle with the enemy of my flesh, the enemy of the spiritual realm and being Satan and his demons and things like that, the culture, but also myself. I'm in a battle with myself, so please show me who I am, So he did that. He did this yesterday. And in my letter, I wrote that there was a grief associated with it. And there was. I felt like I was letting go of a best friend. I feel like I was letting go of something, not that I didn't want to let go of, because I didn't want to let go of it before, which is why it continued to grow. Because God ain't going to remove something from you that you want to keep holding on to. He do not force himself. He'll let you know about something, but if you ain't ready to let that thing go, he's not just going to snatch it, which is why I'm like, okay, I have this frustration with this. Why can't you just take it? Why can't you just take it? And God is like, because you still want it. I'm not going to take it away from you if you actually still want it. You have to really want to surrender those things in your heart that he shows you before he can remove them. So once I came into agreement, like, I really don't want this thing, there was a grief, and not a grief of like a longing or a grief of like, I really don't want to let this go. It was a grief of, you've been a part of me for so long, but you're hurting me and I have to let you go. It's almost like a friend that's been in your life for a long time, and then you realize that they ain't no good for you. You're not like, okay, I'm letting go of this thing because I hate you and you're wrong, but it's like, I hate who I am when I'm with you. I don't like who I am when you're in my life, and you're not serving the purposes of God. You're not moving the needle for the kingdom. You are taking the place of my God, of my Savior, of my Lord. And that's a threat to my eternity. That is a threat to my connection to him. That is a threat to my obedience. And I'd be danged if anything stands in the way of that. So letting go of that comfort of food, and letting go of that crutch, and letting go of that vice in and of itself was not easy, because it didn't just happen yesterday. The peak of it happened yesterday. The breakthrough of it happened yesterday. But I've been battling with this for a really, really, really long time. And the Lord has been speaking to me for a while about it. And I've just been silencing his voice to justify my desire to keep this idol in my life. And with me holding on to it, it was hindering my relationship with the Lord, because it was draining me of my energy. It was replacing times that I could have with him. It was, what am I trying to say? It was replacing the comfort that I needed to seek him for, not just the healing. I would seek him for the healing, but I would seek food for the comfort. So now it's like the Lord is like, I want you to come to me for everything. Don't just come to me for one aspect of what I can provide, but I can provide it all, and I was only going to him for the healing. I was going to the food for the comfort. So when the Lord heals me, he also wants to be the one to comfort me. I was just being tricked into believing it was God, but God is not a burger. God is not a cake. God is not a rock star. God is not an energy drink. God is not any of those things that I was coupling with his healing. I had communion with God last night about all of this. Like, I went to him, I worshiped him, and I was praying to him and just broke bread with him, and just was really sitting in his presence. And this morning I woke up feeling really clean. I felt good, and I felt like I wasn't beating myself up about the whole situation. And what's wild is, when I thought about eating breakfast, I didn't condemn myself for it. Because before, when I would want to stop eating so much and want to start doing this, I would feel bad for even thinking about food. Oh no, I can't eat that because of it. And I would condemn myself so much that I'd be like, okay, now I'm uncomfortable. Let me just go eat anyway. So it was like this toxic cycle. My comfort was creating a void for me to be uncomfortable so that I can seek it. It was like this never ending loop. So this morning when I wanted to eat breakfast, I thought about what I wanted to have for breakfast and everything, and I didn't feel condemned by it. I felt okay with it, and it didn't feel like overwhelming. And it was so strange, it was so strange. But God is such a reassuring God. He's like, I'm not going to condemn you for anything. If anything, He was showing me that that area of my life was healed and I didn't need that thing. I wasn't desperately trying to let go of that thing anymore. So I had my breakfast and I took my daughter to school, came home, did all the things that I do, and I'm going to change my clothes and I see myself, but I didn't see myself disgusting, you know? I didn't feel, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm triggered. Let me rewind it a little bit because before all of this happened, I used to feel really disgusted with how I looked. I hated how I looked. I hated my hair. I hated my body. I hated my voice. I hated everything about me. And I didn't realize until yesterday that these thoughts were just planted in me so that I can seek something to comfort me, if that makes sense. Like, okay, if I see myself as disgusting, if I see all these things don't like, that's going to create a kind of anger, disgust, loneliness, rejection, whatever feelings come to the surface. And to soothe those feelings, I'm going to need to reach for the thing that's going to make me feel good, which is food, which is going to perpetrate, all the feelings again and again and again, because now I'm going to eat, which is adding on to the feelings and things like that, because now I'm just getting bigger and now I'm just feeling this. But this morning, I didn't feel any of those things. I looked at myself and I'm like, wow, I actually like my hair like this, because I was trying to cover it up. We try to cover up the things that we don't want to see, and the Lord wants us to expose it so we can see what needs to be worked on. The Lord wants to expose it so that we can see the thing we need to work on, but we try to cover it up so we can ignore it. But I saw myself and I didn't see myself in a disgusting way. I saw my body and I didn't see something that icked me out. It didn't make me feel like, oh, I gotta lose this. Oh, I can't believe I gained all this weight. It was what it was. And I'm not overly thinking about trying to keep myself from eating. I'm not overly trying to do anything at my own strength, which is why I kept falling short. I kept falling short because I was trying to do things based on my own strength, which is why it never prevailed. I was never able to do it. But once I actually came into agreement with God and let Him know, like, hey, I don't want this thing anymore. I'm done with it. I'm putting it ahead of you. That's all I needed to realize. I don't want it. Now everything feels easy in that department. I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm not like longing for it. It doesn't feel like something that I miss. It just feels like I'm clean. It feels like the Lord really came through and lifted whatever was, perpetuating those thoughts, what was perpetuating my feelings of loneliness and needing to find comfort in food, because now it's not there, and it's all glory to God. And I believe the Spirit moved me to talk about this because this is not something I would have ever spoken on. It's not something I ever would have admitted to anybody. It's nothing that I would have ever been vulnerable about because it was a secret sin. This is something that I battled with and dealt with in my private life, until the Lord brought it to the surface. And now feeling compelled to share it because I know that there's probably somebody out there that's dealing with the same type of sin, even if it isn't the same exact way, even if it isn't showing up the same way. There may be some kind of secret sin that you are idolizing, putting it next to God and wondering why there's a hindrance in your growth, or wondering why you're still battling with certain thoughts and not realizing that it's connected to something that you're doing in secret. And if that is something that you're dealing with, or if that is you, I would just pray to God and ask Him to search your heart for anything that is blocking the connection with you and Him. Search your heart for anything that you are placing on the throne ahead of Him. Because if He ain't ahead of it, it's ahead of him, because there should be no gods next to him. He's not equal to anything in our life. So if there's anything even on the throne with God, you're putting that ahead of God, because God is supposed to be exalted above everything in our lives. I pray that this video touches you. I pray that there was something in it that you can walk away with. If there's any advice, if there's any tips, any insight, anything like that, leave it in the comments. I'm very open to talking about whatever. And like I said, normally this is something I wouldn't share. This is one of them uncomfortable things that God has taken me through, but walking in obedience can be uncomfortable, but it's so healing, and I feel so fulfilled, and I feel like I'm walking in God's purpose, and I pray the same for you. So if there's any secret sin that you have, or anything that you have that you're struggling with, give it to God and God alone, because he is the healer and he is the comforter. In Jesus' name, I pray y'all have a blessed day. Have a good one.